Hi guys, it's Jacob from Stringbuzz here, stringbuzzworld.org being a music journalism site, links are in the description down below. And we have a brand new entry into our Problems With series, and it's my problem with Melancholy covers. So I'm going to refer to the original article as I usually do for these videos, so I hope you enjoy. Now, right before we get into the main subject matter of this segment, I just want to state that I think covers are great. I do. I honestly think covers are great. I think if you can pull off putting a new and exciting spin on some older material, then that takes real skill, and it can be the biggest form of flattery an artist can even receive. However, I can't be the only one fed up of these melancholy acoustic/piano based covers of popular songs. Voice Avenue made the procedure famous a while back on YouTube, but it's been actually around for much longer than that. And as I've already said, they're not all bad, but there are some which are just face-palmingly silly and completely miss the whole point of the original track. And I hope you don't gif that little voice crack I had there. Yeah, that was great. Now, I love lyrical interpretation, and I actually personally find it so interesting seeing and hearing how people react to certain lyrics and themes raised by their favourite artists in comparison to other fans of the artist. But there is such thing as diving too deep into lyrics. Sometimes people look for concepts that are just simply not there, or try to manipulate things which really don't suit manipulation. This is my main reason for not liking melancholy covers in particular. Sure, there are great tracks out there with an underlying message that can be sold in a more solemn fashion than the original artist and than the original art form, but occasionally people miss the mark with the concept of the song and end up trying to turn something light-hearted into something depressing, and they do it pretty darn poorly. Great example of what I'm trying to explain right now is the infamous track Show Me Love by Robin Schulz and all of its terrible reincarnations over the last few years. I love the original, and I think the original is great for some 80s clubhouse fun at parties and at gatherings with friends, but it just doesn't have that lyrical depth to really carry an acoustic ballad all by itself. The majority of the lyrics are repeated, the song's progressions never really change throughout the track, the notes aren't death-defying or out of this world, and yet people are constantly trying to make it sound like a bittersweet love ballad when it really isn't. I mean, it's not deep enough, I'm afraid, and it just doesn't really work for me. I mean, imagine if you tried doing this with, like, a movie or something. Like, take a film like Commando with Arnie Schwarzenegger, for example, an 80s film like that. Would you ever think of turning that into a romantic movie in the 2000s? Although I'd love to see you try it, I think it would bring me just as much pleasure seeing that happening as hearing one of these tracks. Yeah, I just can't say it would really work, would it, really? Let's be honest here. I mean, so what's the difference, really? I mean, there is still a narrative in this song. I mean, there are still significant and memorable moments in this song, but it's just a cheesy pop club track from the 80s, and it was made that way for a reason, so stop trying to manipulate it. A brilliant example of this is the stellar single by Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine, and the sheer quantity of boring acoustic and piano tracks made in its honour, especially by British artists. I don't know what's with that trend at the moment. Sure, this track has a little more depth to it thematically and lyrically, and it has a great hook to it, but it's so memorable and unforgettable due to the performances by the entire group, and each element working so well in tandem to one another. There are so many people who miss the point of the track, thinking that the lyrics are the only important part that should be manipulated and changed from the original, but there are so many other aspects that made this song as popular as it still is today. The guitar solo, the guitar riff, the drum transitions, the many instrumental sections, and that's just to name a few off the top of my head. By copying it into a melancholy style and only concentrating on the vocal melody and lyrics, you're missing the point of around 75% of the track. You've got your peas there, but you haven't got your meat and gravy. That, and if people love the song in the first place, then why are you trying to do this so hard? This is more of a gimmick, taking a track like this and changing it to be so forlorn and dramatic, and everyone knows I do not like gimmicks. This procedure can be done well, of course it can. The whole idea why it was so popular in the first place was it down to being done so well when the idea was initially raised and the first melancholy cover was done and finished with. I mean, look at Johnny Cash's cover of Hurt by Nine Inch Nails. It's one of the all-time best covers, and one that felt so visceral to listen to on my first listen, and still is today, to be honest. But the main reason why it works so well for me, well, its depth, and the song choice in general is so marvellous. He picked a track that isn't universally listened to by all crowds, changed it both instrumentally and in each layer, applied the deep lyrics to his own situation in his life, and put in a very vintage vocal performance. He made it his own without relying too much on gimmick of simply making it different to the original. By picking a song that can be manipulated and was written with an underlying message which is so obvious, he could easily bring that out and flesh it out more organically without pulling at any strings that just aren't there. So it clearly can be done, and there are aspects you have to think of if you want to do it so professionally the first time around. One, you've got to go in with the mindset that you are making the track your own. It has to characterize you as an artist, be relatable to you as an artist, and must sound realistic coming from you as an artist. Two, pick a track that you don't have to actively fight against to find this underlying message. Even though I'm not suggesting blatant tracks, there are many out there with some not so subtle lines which can be manipulated very easily without putting needless weight on piss poor metaphorical gestures. Three, remember that it's not all about the lyrics. Great instrumentals and professional instrumentals can stir just as many emotions as some well thought out lyrics. You have to have the ambition of making it better than the original track, is what I'm really trying to get across here. You have to showcase your interpretation and why your interpretation is better than the original perspective of the original group or singer who made the track. I know it's barely ever achieved, making a track better than the original, but if you truly want to master a new style for an old song, then you've got to go in with that ambition. So hopefully this has given you some thoughts, and maybe some thoughts about things you never thought about before. So if you like this video, then please leave a like, comment what you think in the comment section down below, subscribe to see more, and I'll see you around next time. Bye bye.